Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Metal Chaos. This is yours, David Line special guest vocalist Andrew DeCagna, Ohio power metal band Ironflame. How's it going, Andrew?
It's going well. How are you?
Pretty good, man. So how's the weather out there in Ohio?
It's pretty miserable out there right now. It's like freezing rain right now.
Yeah, I think that's what we got over here too. Sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
We had a bunch of snow yesterday.
Yeah, it was blowing around yesterday, and yeah, now it's just warm enough to freeze and make it all slick out there.
Yeah, gotta make the streets all nasty for you to drive around in, right?
Right.
So now, the band Ironflame, when did you guys start? 2016?
Yeah, technically it started in 2016. It started as a solo project, and once people heard it, they liked it and started asking to see it live, so I assembled a live band out of it, and I think we were playing live by May of 2017.
Yeah, you guys got 3 albums out now?
Yeah, we're on our third album now. It's coming out in February.
So 2017 was Lightning Strikes the Crown, 2018
Yep.
Tales of the Splendor and Sorrow, and then the new one
Yep,
coming out, Blood Red Victory.
correct.
Now, what label is that going to be on?
Dive Bomb Records.
So how long you guys been with Dive Bomb now?
Since day one. I didn't even plan on shopping the album because, like I said, it was just really going to be a solo project. And not long after the promo songs came out, a couple of labels approached me, and Matt from Dive Bomb was one of them. And I just hit it off with him immediately. It felt right, so I went with him, and I stayed with him.
So do you guys have a following out in Ohio?
Well, it's Ohio, man. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a metal scene out here. It's pretty localized. We have to drive, a few hours in any one direction to see a scene, if you will. But yeah, there's some cool bands around here, and we're actually a little closer to Pittsburgh than we are, say, Columbus or Cleveland. So half the band is from Pittsburgh area, so we play Pittsburgh quite frequently as well.
So now who formed the band? You formed the band, Andrew?
I did, yeah. Like I said, it was a solo project. I did everything on the first recording, except for solos, because I can't play a guitar solo to save my life. So luckily, I'm friends with a lot of very talented guitar players. So I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to pull these guys together, and I can handpick guitar players for each song, and that's basically what I did. I continued that formula for the second album. I settled on one guitar player to help me out with all the solos. And he was one of my live guitar players at the time, Jim Dofka. And once Jim left the fold, I replaced him with Jesse Scott. I had Quinn Lucas on board as a live guitar player too. So I just started recruiting them to do the solos on the record from this point on. So on this third one, it's got my 2 live guitar players playing solos.
Now, do you know how to play any instruments?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I performed all the guitars, like the rhythm guitars and all the bass and the drums and the vocals on all the albums up until this point. Just my one big flaw is guitar solos, so I don't even bother embarrassing myself with it.
Now, how did you come up with the band name?
Man, it was really tough. All the good ones are taken, So I'm all over it for a really long time, and I think I might have narrowed it down to 3 or 4. And I think at the end of it all, I couldn't choose just because I was so frustrated. I just showed a couple of buddies the 3 or 4 names that I had, and said, "What do you think's the coolest name?" And they picked Ironflame, so there it was.
Yeah, it's an awesome name, man.
Thanks, man.
No problem. So now, what made you decide to play power metal?
Well, I grew up on Iron Maiden. I grew up on Sabotage and Halloween, and a lot of bands of that ilk. When I was young, and Iron Maiden was the very first metal band that I ever heard. It's a very huge influence, and I've always listened to it. I've always been a fan of it. I just never really played it because by the time I became a performing musician, black metal and death metal, well, mainly death metal was like at its peak. It was early '90s, so that's what was hot, and I was into whatever was the most extreme at the time. So I got into death metal bands, and then I got into black metal bands, and did that for years. And then was in a melodic death metal band for about 10 years. And when that fizzled out, I joined another band that wasn't even metal; it was more hard rock. And I don't know. I was in Dofka for a few years. That wasn't my band. That was a band that I joined, and it was more traditional heavy metal. And I had a lot of fun doing it. And once that band dissolved, I kind of missed it. So I decided to do Ironflame.
So at what age did you start playing guitar?
Oh, I've been fiddling around. I've been a bedroom guitar player since the mid-'90s, probably like 95, 96, something like that. And, I was in bands, but, they were my first band, so I never really considered myself a guitar player. I can keep a rhythm up with the best of them, by this point. But, if you asked me, what I am as a musician, I would tell you that I'm a vocalist. Because I think that's the only thing I'm really like above average at. I would say everything else. I tell everybody like I could fake my way through anything. I can keep a beat on drums, and I could play them for fleeting moments at a time. But I can never. I don't have the stamina to play drums in a band. I couldn't play like song after song after song back to back. I would fail miserably.
So for guitar, were you self-taught, or did you take any lessons at all?
Yeah, completely self-taught. I've never had a lesson. I've never had a music lesson at all in any regards. Completely self-taught. And, I just sat back with my favorite recordings and tried to mimic them and tried to decipher Metallica riffs and, Megadeth riffs, Anthrax riffs, stuff like that until, I gained some sort of technique and started writing my own stuff.
Yeah, you were playing all those Iron Maiden albums and doing the galloping rhythms.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm all about the twin guitar harmonies. That's like my favorite, man. I'm all about it.
So, what do you think of the band Iced Earth?
Oh, I love Iced Earth. And Iced Earth, man, they. I wouldn't say they don't get the credit they deserve because they're a very popular band. But I think that they've gained popularity in the past 10 or 15 years. And a lot of people don't realize how long that they've been doing it. I mean, they were doing it in the mid-'90s or early '90s even, when that kind of music was not popular to do. Everybody was doing death metal and grindcore and everything else, the more extreme stuff. And they were doing traditional stuff even back then. And, there's something to be said about playing a style of music that's not popular. And keeping at it, even though it's not necessarily what the trend is at the time, But like Night of the Storm Rider, I'm not positive, but I know that came out in like maybe '91 or '92. So yeah, they've been doing it a long time, man. That's a band I highly respect for sure.
Now, what do you think of a band like Sanctuary?
Again, a band that's been doing it a really long time. I was always a Laurel Dane fan. It seems like the jury's divided when it comes to his vocals. You either kind of love him or you hate him. I've always been a fan. I've always loved his vocal approach, and even like Nevermore. So really all about Nevermore too. I think that's a great band. I've been a fan of Sanctuary for a long time.
Yeah, Nevermore was an awesome band. And
hell yeah.
Rest in peace, Laurel Dane.
Right, exactly.
I'm glad to see the band still going, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's tough too, man. You know, especially when it comes to a vocalist passing away. You know, so many people feel that like a vocalist is the identity of a band, and when you change that, it's not even the same band anymore. You know, I mean, I don't necessarily feel that way, but a lot of people do, a lot of fans do. So yeah, props to them for keeping that train rolling, man, because it's a great band and it deserves to live on.
Oh yeah, that singer from Witherfall, he's an awesome singer, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, fantastic.
I think he does a good job doing Whirl.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's Witherfall in and of itself is a great band too. Yep. Very talented people.
So now, what's the biggest festival you guys ever played?
So far, definitely Keep It True Festival in Germany. We played that in 2018. Yeah, 2018. In the spring of 2018, and yeah, that was definitely the biggest crowd we've ever played in front of. I think the capacity there was about 3,500 or something like that. And you know, we played first on the second day, and they told us, you know, like, look, you know, you're the first band on the second day. Don't be disappointed if you don't see the venue full, because, you know, everybody gets, you know, slowly pissed drunk all day on Friday, and so by Saturday morning they're sleeping it off. So most of the people missed like the first band on the second day. So don't be bummed out. And we're like, oh, well, you know, this is still a huge opportunity and more people than we ever played in front of. So no worries. But when we were setting up, there was probably about 1,200 people there. But during the set, just saw people slowly filing in, and by the time we were done, that place was jam-packed. Very overwhelming. I'm kind of glad it went down that way, because I think I would have been pretty intimidated to walk out on stage and see that place full.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So now your latest album, Blood Red Victory, how long was the recording process for that one?
Well, because I do all the instruments myself, and I do it in my own studio. I have a modest home studio in my basement. Because, you know, I have that availability, it doesn't take too long. Normally, front to back, an Ironflame album normally takes about 2 months to do all the tracking for the core instruments, and then, you know, it might take another couple of months before I hand it over to the guys and have them put their solos on it. So, I don't know. I mean, you could say probably 3 months total, you know, on average it takes to track one.
So you do all the production and engineering?
I do all the engineering, yep. I do the mixing, I do the mastering, I do everything, yeah.
Now, you write all the lyrics for the band? Correct,
yep. And I believe that is the, hands down, the toughest part of the whole process, man. I dread it. It feels like a total chore to me. It doesn't come naturally to me at all. And, you know, it's always a pain. And I'd say that that's probably what takes the longest during the process, is coming up with the words. Like, the first album, a lot of it wasn't even, like, really written because I'm so intimidated by the lyric writing process that I thought if I had to sit down and write them, I might never finish the record. So a lot of them I was like, well, to hell with it. I'm just going to sit down and I'm just going to like come up with the first thing that comes to my head, and I'm just going to commit to it, and I'm going to record it. And that's what I did with, like, I'd say probably 70 or 80% of that album, and the following album as well. I think this third album, I wrote more lyrics, actually sat down and thought about them and wrote them, more so than the previous 2 albums.
So where do you get all your inspiration from to write all the lyrics?
Oh man, pretty much anything. But I lean heavily on like the theme of war. But you know, I'm not. You know, I got asked this question in an interview last week. Like, oh, are you like a war buff or are you a historian? Because all your lyrics are about war, and that's absolutely not true. I'm like, history is one of my worst subjects. I'm not a war historian or a historian at all. Nothing is based on real wars or real battles. It's just well, to me, you know, heavy metal sounds very triumphant and very heroic. And so to me, writing about war and the concept of victory and overcoming your adversaries is it's something that's just more so complementary to the sound of the music, and so it's easier to write about that subject because of it, at least to me.
Now, are you going to make any music videos for the new album?
Oh man, we would love to. I honestly don't have a lot of connections for people around here that do that stuff. I would have already done it already if so, because it seems like that's like the thing to do. If you're in a band, you should have a video. But there's nobody around here that really does that kind of stuff, and I know it's a big undertaking. I don't know anything about video or video editing or anything like that. So, if there's any fans out there listening and they want to offer up their services to help me out, I would be very appreciative of that. But we're releasing the second single here next week for Blood Red Victory, and that it's not going to be a lyric video. The first one was a lyric video, but this one is going to kind of be a video because what we did was we have a fan record a live version of this song when we played it in Germany on tour in September, and he gave me the video that he took from the audience perspective, and it came out really good, I thought. So I took the video from that, and then I overlaid the studio audio over top of it and made that kind of like a makeshift video. So that's going to be coming out next week.
All right. So now, Andrew, since this band's been going, what's been your fondest memory so far?
Definitely the tour that we just finished in September. That was our first European tour, and we went out. This was the first time we ever went out on the road for an extended period of time together, and it was also the first time we'd ever worked with like a tour manager, and it just made the process so much easier. I've definitely toured a handful of times, but never in Europe, and I've never toured with anyone except for the band. And normally the band had to take care of booking the shows and lodging and transportation and all of that stuff, and that's a lot for a band to take on, and it kind of detracts from the whole experience of being on the road and enjoying yourself, going to different places and spreading your music around. So this time, all that stuff was taken care of. The tour manager was killer, and all the venues were great, and we just got to be a band and didn't have to worry about all the technical aspects of it. Man, it was really liberating, and it was kind of like a vacation. Like, we had a blast. That's definitely my fondest memory.
So the whole tour went perfect then, no problems at all, right?
It did, man. It went great, no snags whatsoever, and I think that's why it was so positive, is because working with a tour manager, you have agreements and contracts laid out already, so when you show up to the venue, you're going to have some food there for you.
Right.
That you're going to have a place to stay that night. What you're going to get paid, whether it's going to be a guarantee, of a certain amount of money, or if you're going to get a door deal. All this stuff's in writing, so there's no, I know we talked about this, but the show wasn't that great, so I got to give you this. There's no disappointment at the end of the night. Everybody came through on their promises, and it just made it a joy, man. It made it a really enjoyable experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's rare.
So now I see you guys been recently added onto the Blades of Steel Festival.
Yeah, we just jumped on that, man. I'm really psyched about that. It's a killer lineup, man. Tons of great bands. And I know Randy, the guy that books the show. I've known him for a couple of years now. He's booked shows with me on and off with different bands. So I knew he was a good guy, and I knew the bill was full. So I wasn't trying to bother him to jump on an already full bill. I just reached out to him and said, hey, man, I'm just letting you know it's a festival. If a band drops off and you need somebody to fill in, Ironflame is available to fill in. And lo and behold, it was less than 24 hours later, he hit me up and said, hey, it was Bullet from Sweden. Bullet dropped off. They're not doing a U.S. tour at all now, so there's a spot if you want it. So we snagged it up.
Now, what do you think about concert promoters that do pay-to-play shows?
How do I feel about pay-to-play?
Yeah, the promoters that do those kind of shows.
Oh, man. Well, it's kind of a sore subject around here because it's pretty prevalent. I don't know how it is up your way, but it pretty much, if you want to open up for anybody worthwhile around here, you're going to be strong-armed into doing the whole pay-to-play thing. So, I mean, it's a pick-your-battles thing. I used to be really against it, and I thought it was a load of BS, and thought, well, you shouldn't have to, you shouldn't have to pay to play. That's not how shows work. But, I mean, it kind of is how shows work because, a lot of these promoters are bringing these bands, and, they have guarantees that they have to promise these bands. So it is a smart way to make sure that guarantee is going to get fulfilled is to pull a couple, promising local bands that are going to have a good draw, and they're going to bring those heads in, and they're going to help pay for that guarantee. Nobody's twisting your arm to do it. You have the choice to do it or not. It's kind of a pick your battles thing. Is this a worthwhile show for us to do? Will we gain an extra fan base by playing the show and paying to open up for this band? Sometimes it is. So my mind is my outlook has changed on it over the years, and now I don't think it's such a bad thing. A lot of the problem is a lot of promoters rely on that and then don't really do their job as a promoter, and they sit on their ass and let the other bands promote the show for them. Now that I have a problem with, that I think is wrong. But I don't want to generalize and say that every promoter is like that, because they're not. But there's definitely some out there that are lazy to do it that way. That I have a problem with. But if you're doing it right, then no, it's beneficial for everybody, I think.
Well, that's the good thing about Randy Cassidy. He'll never do the pay-to-play shows.
No. Well, and Randy is a unique dude, man, and he's old school. He's been doing it, longer than half the people that are showing up to these shows have been alive. So, he's always done it right, and he's always treated me right, and that's how I am, man. I'll treat you exactly how you treat me, and if you treat me well, I'll work with you forever. And he's always been a solid dude. So yeah, I'll always work with Randy.
All right. All right. So now, Andrew, that tour you guys just did, that great tour you did, can you think of any funny or embarrassing stories from that tour at all?
Funny, embarrassing stories. Oh man. Well, we ended up in some questionable bars that we didn't know what we were walking into a couple of nights because, we were just wandering around town and we were half drunk and looking for a place to drink some more. And a lot of bars were closed, and we found one bar that was open. And once we got in there were some very, very unique characters in there. And we hung around for a while, but we started to feel a little sketched out before too long, and we tried to make our exit, and it was kind of tough. And I think later on that night, we were touring with a Swiss band called Comaniac, and they started talking about this drink, Cali Mucho is what they called it, and I think it was a made-up drink. I think they made it up. And basically what Cali Mucho is it's Coca-Cola and really bad wine, really cheap wine, mixed together. And you can imagine what that would taste like. And that's what it tastes like. So at the end of the night, they busted out this cheap wine and Coca-Cola and mixed it together, and we started drinking that. And once we started drinking that, it just got really crazy. You know, they had never heard of, you know, like the drinking game, like Flip Cup. You know, if you know what I'm talking about, Flip Cup.
Yeah.
But they had never heard of that, so we were like, oh my God, you know, we got to play Flip Cup. So, and of course, you know, you play any drinking game, it's just going to accelerate your buzz. So we were getting even more hammered. I know that we were like hanging out of second-story windows and pissing out of second-story windows and just making a complete nuisance of ourselves, and didn't realize we thought we were the place we were staying. We thought we were alone in this place. We were in like a loft that was above the club that we were going to play the next day, and we assumed that we were alone in this club. And the next morning, I get up to go to the bathroom, and I see the club manager in the common room making coffee and in his underwear, and I'm like, oh my God. He was here in the other room the entire night, and we were like animals, like hooting and hollering and just making complete asses of ourselves. We were probably keeping this poor guy up, and he did not say anything all night. He stayed quiet. So I had to apologize to him first thing in the morning. I'm like, man, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't know you were sleeping in the next room. We wouldn't have been so disrespectful. But, yeah, that was definitely a highlight evening of the tour. I won't ever forget that.
So who drinks the most in the band?
What's that?
Who's the biggest drinker in the band?
Oh, who drinks the most? I mean, we all can hold our own, man. You know, if I had to say who would be the last one to drop, it would probably be my guitar player, Clint. And I'd say second in line might be my bass player, James. And those guys can hold their own for sure. I mean, I could keep up with them, but I don't think I could last quite as long as those two. They always seem to be the last ones up.
All right, so what was the last show you guys played?
What was the last show that we played? Well, boy, that's a good one. I'm trying to think what the last show we played was. Man, it was, okay, yeah, it was in Pittsburgh. It's a tiny little place called Gooskies with Lady Beast, a really good metal band from Pittsburgh, and a touring band from, I think they were from Georgia, and I think they were called Voltage. They're more traditional heavy metal. Kind of like, I don't know, like Brock's Helm or something like that. Like, sound like old British heavy metal. And that was probably, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago.
So how'd that show go?
Oh, it was packed. I mean, like I said, it's a little place, but and we didn't expect it to be that great of a turnout because, I think there was a couple of shows happening on the same night in town, so there was some competition. At least I had never heard of the touring band, so you know I didn't know who was going to show up to see them. But yeah, it was a completely packed show. Yeah, that was our last show of the year. We normally try to work on like a cycle, and we'll normally be active playing shows from basically spring to fall, and we normally take the winter off to write new material and learn new material and basically stay safe, man, because you know, at least around our way here, you know, we have some pretty nasty winters, and nobody likes to drive in that stuff. Like, we don't like to drive, you know, to shows, and we think that fans don't really like to drive in dangerous weather either. So we just, take that out of the equation and just take the winter off. So our next show isn't until, Blades of Steel will be our first show of the year. So.
All right, so now, Andrew, what kind of advice would you give up-and-coming bands out there?
Oh, man. Well, I hope you're not in it for the money. I can tell you that. If you are, then you might want to switch styles of music because, there's never been any substantial money to be made in metal, at least in my experience. And if you're doing it for money, you're in it for all the wrong reasons. So, honestly, there's really no advice to give because if you're in it for the right reasons, then none of that stuff matters to you anyway, and you kind of don't have a choice in the matter, and you're going to play what you want to play out of passion, and nobody's going to be able to stop you if they try. So, all those bands that are out there that may not be getting the recognition you deserve, just keep hammering away, man, because, recognition is cool, but that's really not what it's about, and that's not the reason any of us are playing it. We're playing out of love. So just keep playing out of love, if I can give anybody some advice.
All right, now I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here.
Sure.
What is your favorite alcohol of choice?
Oh, I'm a beer guy, man. I used to drink whiskey, and I'll still do a shot every now and again, but if I do, it's going to be whiskey. I've never been like a vodka guy or anything like that. I had a Jaeger bomb phase. I think everybody did. For a while, but those things are dangerous, and things can go south real fast on Jaeger. So I just don't drink Jaeger at all anymore. But I just stick with beer, man, and I like just a good wheat beer. I just like a good Belgian beer. That's my favorite kind of stuff. And I'm not into really super into craft beers, but a couple of the other guys are, like James and Quinn. Those guys are all about the craft beers. But I'm a simple guy, man. I just like a good pale beer.
All right, what's your favorite food to eat?
Oh man, Mexican. Anything Mexican. I'm all about Mexican.
Now, what would you consider to be your top favorite bands of a lifetime?
Oh, of a lifetime. Iron Maiden's an easy one. Boy, after Maiden, it's just like there's Maiden and there's everything else, really. All of the greats, all the classics like Sabotage and Priest and Queensryche, Halloween, all of those great old bands, and I have favorites in genres, because I still love old school death metal, and I still love that second wave of black metal and grindcore, and I have favorite bands from like every genre. I would say there's not too many facets of or styles of metal that I don't like. So, it would be easier to break them up into those genres, I guess.
All right, what was the first metal concert you ever attended?
The first metal concert I ever attended was Iron Maiden in 1987. 11 years old. Somewhere in, I think it was 87. Yeah, somewhere in Time Tour in Pittsburgh, Syria Mosque.
What was your first non-metal concert?
My first non-metal?
Yeah.
It's a toughie. I'm trying to think of what my very first one was. That was a toughie. Maybe Rush in like 99 or something like that. It might have been earlier. It might have been 97. Test for Echo tour. I saw Rush. And they're definitely not a metal band. I know they influence metal bands, but I definitely wouldn't put them in the metal category. But that was probably my first non-metal show.
All right, so say in the next 5 years from now, where do you hope to see the band Ironflame?
Oh man, honestly, if we're still doing what we're doing now, releasing an album once a year and doing little tours over the pond once a year, and having fun and drinking beer, man, I'll be a happy boy. I don't really have lofty aspirations for the band, and I'm a pretty simple guy, to keep happy. I just like doing what we're doing now. So as long as that keeps up, I'll be completely content with that.
So what keeps you passionate about playing metal?
Oh man, I think it's just a fever that I caught, so long ago when I was a kid, and once that fire got lit within me, it's never gone out. And I think highs and lows, in good times and bad, metal has always been there for me, and it's always been consistent. It's always been a rock that I can cling to, and it's never disappointed me. It's never failed me. So I don't know. I think that I will always play as long as I'm physically able to play. I don't think I really have a choice in the matter. It's just it drives me. It drives me daily.
Now, how many social media sites can people find the band on?
We're not on all of them. We're not on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We are on Instagram. And I believe that's it. On Instagram, we're at Ironflame Official. Facebook, we're Ironflame USA. And YouTube, we're Ironflame Official.
Now, you guys have a YouTube channel?
We do.
Then it's Ironflame, right? Just type in Ironflame?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview.
Of course, Dave. Thanks to you. I appreciate you having me on here.
Now, the song Seeker of the Blade, what is that song about?
It's basically about some knights who have been recruited with the duty of finding this ancient mythical sword that holds all these mystical powers that not everybody even quite knows about. It's a kind of a legendary sword, and they've been sent out on this quest out into the world to find this sword. It's kind of a non-resolving song because they never do. You never find out whether they find the sword or not. But that's what it's about.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to close out the show and play that song.
Right on, man. Thank you.
Thanks again, Andrew.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good one.
You too, man. Bye.
All right. We'll see you.